You're listening to the Seahawks Insiders, getting you ready for Seahawks football every Sunday. Presented by Delta, the official airline of the Seahawks. Now, here's your host, Jen Mueller.
Well, there are actually no more Sundays to get you ready for, at least not for this season. The Seahawks took care of business, John Boyle.
Someone could take there are no more Sundays to be a very bleak statement.
You're
do
right.
you know something the rest of us don't?
That's right. I'm sorry.
No
I'm
more
still
game
not
days?
thinking clearly. There's no more football Sundays
There we go.
for a
Thank
little
you.
while.
Get
Yes,
me
there's.
worried.
Well, I mean, in the open, it says we're getting you ready for Sunday. Well, I'm not actually going to do that. I'm just going to get you ready for the offseason.
Perfect.
Because we are going to tie a bow on an incredible Seahawks season. I think it's still going to take us a little while to recover from this one.
I think so. Been a really fun but very busy stretch of playoffs, Super Bowl. You get home from the Super Bowl, and hey, we gotta get ready for a parade. And
That's right.
hell of a celebration in Seattle on Wednesday. That was a lot of fun. And
Yeah.
it was a fun ride for sure.
You know what was awesome? Like just watching. So I was with the broadcasters on one of the vehicles, and you could just not only see the number of people that were there, but it was all age groups. You could tell there was all fan levels. There were families, there were friends, there were grandparents. Like it was just a really cool, true celebration. Yes, it was about the team, but there was also such a awesome community aspect of it that was just really fun to be a part of.
Well, and that's what these parades are all about. We heard kind of from a few players talking, before the game, before the parade on stage and all that. But like, this is a celebration like with the fans, but also like of the fans who, are really what's kind of behind this team and helps make them go. Like the Super Bowl is awesome, and that's the players' thing. They're winning the game. They're there. They get to celebrate. But this is like for the whole city, and it was really cool to see the reaction and then just see the way players responded. Like they were having so much fun. Yeah. They were just soaking it in. They were really loving it up with the fans. It was fun.
Yeah, and I've said this a couple of times. And so let's go back to the Super Bowl. I've said this a couple of times. Winning the Super Bowl doesn't feel the way you think it does. And I think the players all said something similar. Because I was with Leonard Williams when he's having his picture taken in the locker room with the trophy. And my question was, does holding that trophy feel the way you think it would, that you imagine this moment to be? And he said, honestly, I do not care about holding this trophy. Like, that's not what this is about. The whole year has been the journey, and it's the team. And there's this really weird feeling of, yeah, we made it and we accomplished the goal, but also there's like a disappointment and an acknowledgement that it wasn't about that game.
Yeah.
That sounds weird, I know, to fans, but it's almost like an obtuse feeling. Like you can't describe everything that just went into that moment.
Yeah, we talked to Julian Love about that when players were back in the locker room on Tuesday, and he brought up, he's like, obviously it's exciting, great as always. Like there's this tiny bit of disappointment that it's over. Like it was such. We've talked so much all season about like how close this team is, what a special group is, and like he's like, I'm gonna miss like getting ready for like being in the meetings and going to practice and walk through with the guys. It's just like so much what made this team special is how much fun they had doing everything together in the process every week. And so like it's an abrupt ending, even when it's the best possible ending. It's still this like, oh wow, we're done until off-season workouts start in April. So. They're going to get some very well-deserved time off, but there is an interesting kind of mixed emotion to it for players.
Yeah, and I was talking to Ernest Jones in the locker room on Tuesday as well, and I said, is it fair to say that if you don't enjoy the process, the winning, the losing, the grinding, the ups and the downs, that you will ultimately be disappointed about 48 hours after winning the Super Bowl? And he said, yes, although the first time he was in the Super Bowl, he didn't really take time to acknowledge what that meant to him. It was about 48 hours, and then he was like, okay, now what do I do next? He goes, this time I understand what the whole journey is about, especially for him personally. It has been a lot in the last 18 months for him. And he said, I'm going to enjoy it a little longer. Maybe it's going to last a week this time, and then I'm going to get back, right? But I think it's important for everybody to understand, like, that's just the high performer mentality, right? You're already on to the next thing. Because yesterday at the parade, they're already talking about how do we keep going and build this for next year? I don't know. I just think that that's interesting because it's not actually the be-all, end-all that a storybook ending would be.
Yeah. I will say, though, the parade, especially I think for the players, feels more like the real celebration than, as much as the Super Bowl, they partied in the locker room, they partied that night. The parade is like really... the parade is really where it's like you can let loose and fully kind of soak it. I mean, hundreds of thousands of fans on the streets. It was quite a scene. And how about the weather cooperating?
Oh, my gosh.
To have that day in February?
I tell you what.
50 degrees
People
and sunny?
kept asking, why does it feel like there's more fans out here this time than last
It's
time?
not 10 degrees?
Because last time it was bitterly cold and your smile was kind of frozen. I sat next to Sherm, so he was on the Legends bus that was right in front of me. So we ended up sitting next to each other going back to our cars. And he was like, oh my gosh, last time I remembered like snot coming out of my nose and it looked like I was crying because it was so cold. And, like my face is frozen and this weird.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, no, it was
better.
very enjoyable. If there was anybody who was built for yesterday's moment.
AJ
and who
Barner?
really shined.
I know where you're going, right?
It was AJ Barner.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Fur coat,
The fur
cowboy
coat,
hat.
the hat. He had the walk. He owned it. He owned the stage. He owned like the walkway going up. He owned the parade. He is
tight ends, man. There's something special about that position group. It brings out the kind of the goofy, fun personalities. I don't know what it is, but he's a fun one and hell of a player too. And that's first and foremost what matters here. But he brings a really fun. Because it's funny, we talk about like the defense has so many like bigger personalities and kind of like the offense. It's a lot of like Kenneth Walker, the Super Bowl MVP, very laid back guy. Sam Darnold is just kind of a no nonsense, like great player, but you don't have the big personalities. And AJ is sort of the guy that brings that to the offense.
Well, he was not originally scheduled to be one of the speakers on stage before the parade, and it was Sam Darnold who brought him up and gave him a lot of credit. And I thought that was pretty awesome. Your hat, while not AJ Barner's hat, is very cool. I do have mine at home.
Yes, good one.
I think it is one of many. Well, it is the best one. Also, these Super Bowl colors were really my colors.
Yeah.
I love it. I loved the logo. I loved the colors. And I think you can find that at the Pro Shop.
Unless they sold out, but I'm sure they'll get more if they did.
They're going to be getting more.
They've definitely had. I ran into a fan on the way to Super Bowl. I took light rail down there, or not Super Bowl, to the parade, and he was like so excited. He's like, I got to the Pro Shop, and there's like one little stack left, and I grabbed 3 of them for my family. So they're going fast, but I'm sure they will restock.
I'm sure it's going to be a hot item.
Yes.
For quite a while.
And then there's the black one that the players were wearing too, with the big Lombardi trophy on. That was good too.
I do love that one.
Yeah.
There was some good merch.
Yes.
I will be getting down to the Pro Shop at some point in time.
Got to load up.
But I have to clear out some space in my closet.
I know. My wife was like, you have a lot of hats right now. Like this stack of like 3 Super Bowl hats, NFC champs, NFC West. It's like, yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not going to complain about it. I do just need to make space. And right now, we need to pause for a quick word for our presenting sponsor.
Delta Airlines is bringing more big wins to the city of Seattle. With nonstop flights to over 60 destinations worldwide, we're moving Seattle forward with 2 new routes to Rome and Barcelona starting May 2026. And with thoughtfully designed cabins, premium service, a seamless travel experience, and our new Delta One Lounge for eligible travelers, your personal off-season is looking better than ever. Visit delta.com to book your next trip.
Okay, let's go back and revisit a couple of highlights from that Super Bowl. And when you were talking about AJ Barner and the personality, I also thought about the podcast appearance that he had. And his touchdown catch was actually a mistake.
Yeah, Cooper Kupp broke that down.
I thought that was funny. And I really thought AJ's explanation was pretty funny,
what was
too.
it? Yada, yada,
scissors. And you're just like, he goes, I know what I need to do. And I just thought that was a really funny, also Seinfeld reference. I don't know if he knows that that's what that
Probably
reference
not.
was, but you yada-yada'd over the best part.
But also just one of the millions of examples this season of Cooper Kupp's like value that goes beyond just what we see on the stat sheet. I mean, stat sheet was pretty good. He's led the team in receiving 2 or 3 games this postseason, but like that's potential for a totally busted play if the receivers are running wrong routes in the wrong position. He recognized it in the moment and he made it right.
I do like the recognition too of that doesn't happen if you don't spend all that time in meeting rooms with quarterbacks. It doesn't happen if you don't spend all that time studying or making sure that you are so into it. And as Eric Saubert said, it's really intricate. His level of preparation and the inquisitive questions are very intricate from Kupp. And it makes everybody else around him think about what they're going to do on these plays. So while that was almost a mistake and maybe a lucky happenstance. I think it's also just, hey, that's the level of communication and awareness these guys have had all year. The video of Ken Walker and Sam Darnold in the teacups is one of the best videos ever. And his performance, absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and they really needed it on day. Like, both defenses were playing really well. Sam Darnold, he said it after the game himself, it wasn't his best game. He did some things really well. Most importantly, he avoided, like, there's a really good pass rush. They got pressure on him, and there's an opportunity for a lot of sacks, which obviously can put the ball in danger, and he avoided most of those. He didn't turn the ball over, so I'm not saying he had a bad game, but there are a few throws, not
just
quite
a
right.
little
That,
off, yeah.
You know, that could have been a real blowout if he hits a couple throws. So all that being said, you needed the run game, and Ken Walker was phenomenal. He was, there were some good blocks. He turned into huge runs, and there are some plays that he kind of made things happen on his own, which he's done all year. Really cool for him. Like, he's such a just like mild-mannered, chill guy, and to see him like have this moment, it's funny. Like I was at the press conference the next morning. Like most guys, he hasn't really slept, and he's trying to enjoy the moment. But you can also tell like that is not his scene.
No.
And we asked him about like going to Disneyland, and it's like because he's like, I kind of want to go on the rides. Like you gotta like do a parade too. He's like, as long as I don't have to talk. But he was glad Sam was there. He did tell me that like it helped the whole process a lot easier having his quarterback with him.
Yeah, I do kind of laugh out of anybody, and I love Ken, and we've had some awesome conversations. Being at a podium is not his favorite place to be, so he's going to have a lot of conversations this year. I think that he was not anticipating ahead of that game on Sunday. The shout out I want to have, and John, I did not get a chance to look at how you vote for game MVP. Like I don't get a chance. It's chaotic on the sidelines. There is a case to be made for both Jason Myers and Michael Dixon. Now, I am not taking anything away from Ken Walker. He was the deserving recipient of that one. Here's the thing I want to point out, and I talked to Michael Dixon about this. I can't remember if it was Monday or Tuesday. I don't know what the actual TV copy broadcast talked about. The wind on the field was ridiculous. And Michael Dixon had said, pregame, it's awesome. You go from having this perfect game, or perfect day, right? Everything's perfect. The minute kickoff comes, the wind is going crazy. So everything that they had kind of strategized and practiced, well, now you're changing on the fly. And none of it seemed to matter. Yeah. Michael Dixon landed the perfect punts, and Jason Myers was perfect. And I just want people to know that degree of difficulty, we take for granted that special teams is really good. That degree of difficulty in those conditions, which I don't know if everybody could see, even more impressive.
Yeah, and I didn't realize this until like the leading up to Super Bowl. That statistically is one of the hardest places to kick, and because of that win you mentioned, like the field goal percentage is pretty low in that building. And
it is the lowest of any opponent.
We saw Jason Myers miss some kicks last time they played there. It didn't end up mattering, but so like 5 for 5. I know they weren't. I think if two of those had been like 50 plus, he might have very well been MVP. But the offense was moving the ball, so he was kicking shorter kicks. 5 for 5, Super Bowl record, 5 field goals, by the way. And then Michael Dixon was just phenomenal. 3 punts from inside the 6-yard line. It was, and shout out to Velus Jones on the one.
Yes.
It was like the most casual.
Yes.
It was like, it might have gone out anyway, but just kind of like, batted out. I really enjoyed that play.
That was a great play.
It was smoothly played. But yeah, the coverage teams were great. The Patriots have a great punt returner. They really got nothing in the return game. So yeah, this team's been, there's a lot about that game that just felt really like fitting for this team to win that way. Of like,
I agree.
You kick butt on special teams. You've been great on special teams all year. Not only does your defense play awesome, but when you started to say also people could have been the MVP, I thought we were going to talk about the defense. It's like there's a handful of guys on defense where that kind of force, like someone on defense should win MVP, but who? And that's why this team's been all year. There's not the one superstar. There's not an edge rusher with 15 sacks. There's not a guy. I mean, you do have 5 interceptions from Ernest Jones, but otherwise not a lot of statistical dominance, but just so good across the board.
Well, and that I would say that's kind of where the strength of this defense is, right?
Oh,
you can't pick out the one superstar. I could have easily found 3 guys on defense to give it to, but how do you decide that Derek Hall was more important than Julian Love and that one that was more important than Uchenna? Like, it is truly the dark side defense, and they haven't cared about who gets credit all year long.
I do wonder if a statistical change costs Boone the MVP. Because if you make that a sack fumble, then he has 2 sacks, forced fumble that sets up a touchdown. He might be that might get voters again, but instead because that's how they initially put it on the
Gotcha.
play-by-play, and then within about 10 minutes, they changed it to an interception.
See,
So
I
now
can't see
he
any
still
of that
made
from
the play
field.
happen,
Yes,
but just
exactly.
statistically, when you're like, what's this guy's case? And
Right.
So they've changed the voting since you mentioned that earlier. I'm not sure. I know there's like a panel of people. I'm not sure how they're voting. It used to be literally they handed out, when I was doing this a decade
They handed
ago,
out paper.
sheets
and
of
you,
paper in the press
check
box,
yeah.
and you write in who you want, and they have you pick one for each team because you're voting, which, by the way, different topic, but the whole conspiracy about trying to get Russell Wilson the MVP over Marshawn Lynch, the votes were in by the time that play happened 11 years ago. You write, okay, if the Seahawks win, if the Patriots win, and you turn that in. So that was neither here nor there, but I digress. The voting has changed. I don't know exactly how it happened now. I did not have a vote, though. I might have gone spoon just to, represent the defense. I mean, I think Kenneth Walker is probably the right pick because just overall individual performance and numbers jump out. Really led that offense, but a part of me is somebody on defense has to win because the defense is just so awesome. But no bad choices there. You could have gone Jason Myers. You could have gone with the punter. A lot of good.
I mean, that's what happens when you're the best team in the NFL. You've got options for playmakers. Anything else from the Super Bowl stand out that we need to wrap up? Because it feels like there was so much that happened. It also feels like that was forever ago. I would say that game played out almost like you expected it.
Yeah.
You expected the pressure to get to the rookies on the left side of the Patriots offensive line. You expected Drake May to feel the pressure of that rush. I did not expect that many blitzes in the first half.
I don't think they did either.
I did not.
It actually wasn't numerically. It wasn't that many.
I know.
It was, but they sent Spoon more. He'd barely blitz this year, and they kept sending him, and the Patriots had no answers.
Yeah, I did not expect AD to be so vocal to his interior D line. It was as animated as I have seen him all year long. It was in their face. And I saw him on the way to the bus on Monday. I was I was a little bit concerned there. He goes, "Oh, I'm sorry." I was like, no, it worked. It worked. Why ever that needed to take place to get the rush going, they did. But I think everything else kind of played out.
Yeah, one of my biggest takeaways from the Super Bowl and really the week is the days leading up to it. You could just being around that team, you could sense they're fine. They're it was kind of all week. But what really stood out was that Thursday media availability. They do they're in front of the media a lot. It's Monday's the big opening night, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday they have to spend an hour with the media. And by Thursday, it was just Derek Hall's walking around with the mic. Guys are shadow boxing, goofy things happening, players interviewing each other. And you're this moment is not too big for this team. I think we all knew, on paper, the matchups favored the Seahawks. They looked like the better team all season. So to me, the only, if there's a letdown or something could mess them up. But it was so obvious. And being around the players just on game day morning when they're down having breakfast.
Yeah, I was having breakfast.
They were so
playing
loose
cards.
It was it just felt like any Sunday morning before a Week 10 game on the road, and you're yep, they're just fine.
They are just fine. They are also the world champs. We've got just a couple of more final thoughts to close out this episode when we come back after a word from our presenting sponsor.
Take your own off-season with Delta Airlines and explore new routes from Seattle to Rome and Barcelona starting May 2026. Plus, with nonstop flights to over 60 destinations worldwide, Delta is moving Seattle forward one adventure at a time.
We are putting a bow on the 2025-26 season, and we have talked about the Super Bowl, our impressions from the parade, kind of this team as a whole. John, looking forward, though, they don't have a whole lot of time before they've got to make decisions on players, before you have to start putting your board together for the draft because you're going to go to the combine. There's a few key dates that are coming up. And, oh, by the way, you're doing this knowing that you have a target on your back next year and that you've already played longer than most teams in the league. So your rest, your recovery, how they handle some of those off-season workouts, I think probably changes a little bit.
Yeah, it sneaks up on you when you play this long season. Mike McDonald brought this up. He's like, we're going to the combine in 2 weeks. It's very soon. So, yeah, from the player personnel standpoint, they're already deep into draft preparation. Coaches will get caught up here. From a fan standpoint, the next big thing is free agency coming up in mid-March. And the Seahawks do have, that whole 2022 draft class that so many standouts who, including the Super Bowl MVP, a lot of those guys are free agents. They have gotten Abe Lucas and Charles Cross's extensions done already, but, Tariq Woolen, Charles Cross, not Charles Cross, Kobe Bryant, Kenneth Walker, a lot of guys are going to have to make decisions on. So there are some of that. But, overall, when you look at championship roster, A lot of youth, a lot of guys still under contract. So there's a lot to love about this team coming back.
We also will find out who the offensive coordinator will
That's
be
another
with
big
Clint
one.
Kubiak's
That'll
departure.
probably be the soonest decision.
Yep. So internal candidates are expected to interview this week. I don't even know what day of the week it is, John, but they are expected
Thursday,
to have
I believe.
interviews,
Yeah.
perhaps this week, and then they will want to get that settled because that is all part of the conversation when you go towards, drafting, signing, all sorts of things.
Yeah, and
like
Mike
that.
McDonald he has indicated that, it's not a set in stone thing, but I think, he talked about on his radio show on Monday, he talked about, or Tuesday, whatever day that was, continuity and that idea of first of all, it's hard to hire someone from outside the organization this late in the process, but secondly, they got a really good thing going here. You don't want to totally overhaul your offense. So yeah, I think there's a very good chance it'll be one of these internal candidates.
Yeah, and I think there's a very good chance that we'll be talking to the peeps during the offseason.
Yeah, for
There'll
sure.
be plenty of things that are happening.
Plenty to talk about.
Plenty of things to talk about. There is still time to enjoy this one, but I think for right now, we're going to call it a wrap for the Seahawks Insiders podcast this season.
Let's do it.
Okay, we are going to do that. We will make sure that we check in with you during the offseason as we get you ready for another season of Seahawks football and celebrate your Super Bowl championship team.
That sounds really good.